Right, now then, I promise you, this is a rather rare event because it's not often. In fact, I'm trying to think of an occasion where we've had all the following panelists on a panel at the same time. Very unusual. And, oh, look at them all. Right. Now, you may not know who they are, but I guarantee you've stayed in their bedrooms. They may not have known you were there, but I guarantee that you have indeed, because our panel on this extraordinary one, we have Sebastien Bazin, the CEO of Accor. Who stayed with Accor? Yes, there we go. Tony Capuano is the CEO of Marriott. My guess is if there's somebody in here who hasn't at some stage stayed in a Marriott, you haven't got out. Jerry needs no introduction. Jerry from Diriyah, who's building, how many rooms?
6,000 under construction now.
6,000. You will be staying in his bedrooms. Eli Maalouf is at IHG Hotels and Resorts. Good to see you, sir. Chris Nassetta of Hilton, welcome on board. And Ferit Sahenk of Durgas Group of Turkey. Nice.
Richard, if I add, most of the guests here may not have stayed in our hotels, but for sure dined all around the world in Zuma, Roca, Koya, and many other brands. So please, let's add F&B to the hotel list as well.
So you feed us?
I feed you, and also I can make you lose weight and get healthier when you go to Cheno in Switzerland.
And of course, you're in the large-scale catering as well for transport and aviation. So massively. Now, let's begin. The industry as such. Look, I know the difficulties you all had with the pandemic. And ever since pandemic, we have been myopically obsessed with getting back to those sort of numbers. Are we back to numbers post-pandemic, Sebastien?
Far better. We are certainly 20% better than the last year of the pandemic. That 2019. Yeah, much better.
And when you say better, that is both in numbers and revenue.
It is true for pricing. It is true in some regions for occupancy, but we're not 20% up on occupancy, far from it.
Same comments. The only distinction I would make, for most of us, our business model is such that we own very little real estate. The bulk of us are asset-light models. And so while the managers and franchisors are well ahead of where we were in 2019, we've got to remain mindful that many of our owners and franchisees, because of the pace of expense growth, some of them are not back to where they were in terms of profitability and enterprise value.
Chris, the ability to get back to where you were and to advance further has been quite remarkable because you had all these admittedly your owners and franchisees had these fixed assets, but it's not many industries that literally overnight lost their business.
It took time. I mean, as others have said, I mean, pricing power has been important. Like in a lot of industries, we've been able to price up. We have not fully, in the world gotten back, as Sebastien said, to demand levels. But our business is sort of broken down into three big components. There's leisure travel. Most people think about all of us on stage and a vacation. For most of us, leisure travel is a relatively the smallest of the segments. It's business travel and then this, meetings and events. And so they're all sort of in different stages of flight. And leisure, like everything on earth, got moved much faster towards recovery and beyond. Business travel, because of the new work world as it has evolved, has been slower to recover. And meetings and events just take time. So now meetings and events are getting back.
But the business, but the leisure travel became the new focus for you in many ways.
Of course. For us, I don't know about others, leisure travel pre-pandemic was about 30% of our business. it became, coming out of the pandemic, like 60% of our business, but it's moving back closer to where it was pre-pandemic.
Really?
It is.
Well, if you look at business, as Chris is right, if you look at business travel, exclusively business transient, you know, 2 people going, staying 2 nights, coming back for a meeting, that's mostly recovered to where it was in 2020. Leisure is much higher. But there's another part of business travel that is breaking all barriers right now, which is group business travel. Most of that group is not leisure. Most of that group is business. This is group. Conventions, conferences. I mean, I was talking to somebody, a couple days ago in the region. They are taking bookings for 2039. I don't know if some of those visitors will be alive in 2039, but they're taking bookings for 2039.
Will they get a refund?
They're coming. So in total, you know,
Right.
frankly, the business has changed a little bit. You have a lot more group, about even on business transient.
Yes, well,
Richard, you know, transcending the kingdom for a moment, Chris is the former chairman of the World Travel and Tourism Council, as you know, and thank you for your leadership, Richard, on that. So now I have the privilege representing the kingdom, because the kingdom is the chairman of the Middle East, and we're vice chairman. But all of our statistics now show that global GDP from tourism at the end of 25 will be 11%. And that's the highest benchmark it will have ever been.
turning to you, Ferd, the way in which you can see the post-pandemic growth, because it's discretionary spend in many cases where people are going to you.
Well, Richard, first of all, we are more leisure travel people, but
Is that because, when you said you're more leisure travel, is that because your restaurants are so expensive people don't go there on business?
not expensive. It's lifestyle. You know, the difference is we create needs.
You create what?
I don't cater to needs. We create a lifestyle experience that when people go home, they want to come back. We create the need to come back. This is very important. And something very different from such leaders and brands here, we are very small. We have in a house hotel and restaurants. The gentlemen here are big, very big hotel people. They are looking for restaurants. What we do, we create a location, we create the lifestyle experience, and we put the lodging on top. So we do the reverse of what they are doing.
I think I would defer it. I would debate this. Any small has a greater number of restaurants standalone that you have. We have full of admiration. We conduct the same business, but thank God, as big as we are, we have the agility to pivot, to enter a new field, not to compete with you, but to make sure we can attract different customer base, and maybe not as good as you are.
No.
But we're getting there.
Well,
we're getting there pretty fast.
Sebastien is such a leader of synergy, and he's.
Oh, don't back down.
I'm not backing down.
Keep
I'm
going.
not backing down. I'm opening a
Richard,
window. I'm giving a hand.
Next topic. You know, move this along.
The fascinating part about the...
Richard, why don't we lift way up and let's
wanna
not talk about pandemic and recovery, but what's the next 10,
Oh, you want to
20
lift it up?
years? Yeah,
Fine.
lift up.
Let's talk about then where you grow. Which parts of the world are most interesting for you at the moment, and how you take advantage of them with all the difficulties of sustainability and all the other issues of growth. So let's start with you, Chris.
Well, I think if you lift way up first, and then I'll talk briefly and leave it to others. My own view is, COVID was difficult. Coming out of it has had ups and downs. But if you look at the long run of hospitality, we're at the beginning of a golden age of travel. What's driving it? There's 3 fundamental things. Demographics. We're going to have over 5 billion in the middle class by 2030. Those people want to travel in their country, outside of their country, and see the world. Middle class growth is a huge driver. Number 2, it reversed in COVID, but now it's accelerated. People want experiences more than they want things. So they're allocating disproportionately more to experiences, and we're in the business of experiences. Number three, there is a massive increase in both mobility in the world, just people's ability to get around because of infrastructure spending that is going on all over the world. Look around you at the cranes, and flexibility in the workforce. Not that it's going to be like it was in COVID, but post-COVID world is different than pre-COVID world, and people have more flexibility to blend business and leisure.
I want to
build on Chris's second
I'll add a fourth
point.
trend to that.
Sorry, Chris makes a really important point on the second point about consumers prioritizing travel and experiences over goods, and that's not our intuition. All of us have big branded credit card platforms, and as a result, we've got terrific data from our credit card partners in real time on consumer spending. Pre-pandemic, you saw this predisposition for the younger demographics. In a post-pandemic recovery, that appetite and that desire to prioritize travel and experiences is across demographics, and that feels permanent.
And this builds on that. I mean, there's a fourth trend to Chris's that's predominant in North America, Europe, and China, which happen to be our three largest markets. It's the aging of the population, which, until everybody's gone, is not, is a good thing. Why? Because you have a wave of retirees in North America, Europe, and China that are healthier and wealthier.
Sorry, headed that, those
right.
of us in our early 60s heading that way.
I mean, healthier and wealthier than any generation before.
Yes.
And one of the top three things they want to do, if not the first thing they want to do, is travel. They may be semi-retired, on a board, on a charity, pass the business down to the children, but they want to experience the world. They have more money than they want to give their kids, and they want to spend it. And you know what their motto is? Go first class, or your kids will.
I like that.
What's the book? Diet Zero, or whatever it's called. Die with Zero is the book. But on that point, how difficult is it for you, even with a long chain or a large up and down chain of different products, to get the right product to attract to those different markets? So you've got those who go first class, or your kids will, versus the kids who are still sort of at the back of the bus.
I mean, it's what we've been doing for 80 years. We started 80 years ago with Holiday Inn Intercontinental. We were an everyday travel with Holiday Inn, and we were the luxury brand at Intercontinental. You build that muscle to keep every brand experience, as Chris was saying and Tony was saying, those experiences to be real, to be distinct. We're a collection of brands. We're not just one brand with a few different front faces. And so today we extend it to upper luxury, uber luxury with Regent and Six Senses, and we go down to mid-scale. As the population grows, as its products change. I mean, look at
how do you balance, to take you from you and then to Sebastien, how do you balance that at any given moment? Where is your gut telling you that the momentum is?
Well, I don't think it's a single spot. All of us in the markets where we operate, you're seeing this bifurcation of the consumer. Right? You're seeing the high-income household consumer prioritizing travel at the upper upscale and luxury end. The lower-income household, they still have an appetite to travel, but in a much more affordable way. And that's causing all of us to build these portfolios that span multiple price points.
I agree with all of that. Having said that, I mean, this is why, Tony has 40 brands, we have 24. Everybody has a lot of brands because you have to serve every customer wherever they want to be in the world for any need they have. But when you wake up in 20 years, and I hope I do wake up in 20 years, and you look at the growth in the industry by any measure, just take rooms, because that's how we all measure ourselves. The bulk in growth in our industry will be in the mid-market. Why? Demographics. Right? The middle class, the 5 or 6 billion people that are going to be in the middle class are the bulge bracket that ultimately are going to drive travel demand. And so when we all wake up in 20 years, more of our systems, we're all going to have luxury. We're all going to do the fun stuff we all love. But the bulge bracket is where you're going to see the monumental growth.
And is that dramatically different? The numbers may be larger, but is that as a principle dramatically different from before?
No.
Not at all.
No.
No, I think the pandemic created a bit of a pause.
Right.
But if you rewind to 18 and 19, all of us were in stage
Right.
talking about this global explosion of the middle class and what that was going to mean for travel. It paused a bit during the pandemic, but it's rolling again.
It's accelerating. There's just more middle class. When you're getting to 5 billion, 6 billion people, it's pushing the curve up.
You know what it takes when you're not American? You can't talk. So, Ferit, you're going to be on my camp. When you're a non-American guy, you cannot talk.
I gave
They
you
talk
my
too
hand.
No
much.
one's
just
ever
push it.
accused
talk
you
all
of
the
not
time.
talking. Never. Not
All
once.
yours.
It's just what I wanted to say. It's back to a bit of the topic. We have to first understand travel remains domestic or intra-regional. We all confused about, we're going to go and see another continent. 70% or 75% of the travel in the world, in terms of volume, is domestic. It is in America, it is in China, it is intra-Europe, it will be in the GCC.
But you count Europe as being intra-Europe.
Of course, I'm talking intra-Europe.
Yeah.
It's 80% of the business. So you had, for the last 50 years, it's so easy to read, which is why we are pretty good and efficient, because what we have in front of us looks very much like the past. You started with America 50 years ago. Then you had Europe 40 years ago. Then you had China for the last 20 years. Middle East is coming in between. You're going to have India for the next 20 years. You're going to have Sub-Saharan Africa in 25 years from today. It's all about demography, emerging middle class, local population. I am struck in Saudi Arabia. How many people in this country never went north, never went south, never went to Alula? Start with catering for those who never had a chance to discover their own country. If you do it well, make your hotel affordable, then cater for the high end. But high end is at the end of the journey.
So do you think, before I come to you, Ferric, do you think that quite often we like, I say we, me, right, whatever, we focus on the big stuff. We focus on the glamorous stuff. We focus on the long haul stuff. But what you're saying is it's domestic. It is regional in a sense.
Yes, it is.
It may not be as exciting, but that's where the business is.
No, it's not exciting, but it has another effect, which is what we all wake up in the morning, and me certainly deeply, is by going into the local domestic, different secondary, tertiary cities, what are you doing? You are getting a job for those local community that desperately need to get a job. There's no better offer in the world than all of us on this stage providing a job for those people who've never going to have a chance to go to university. The social aspect of travel and tourism is why we should wake up in the morning.
And it's across the life cycle.
Hold that one second. I just wanted to ferret on that, because if there's one country where that is absolutely true, it is Turkey at the moment. Not only have you got a population that is truly exploring the wonders of your own country, you're marrying that up with an increased tourism industry for upward mobility of the population.
Yeah, Richard, first of all, I'm a very proud citizen of Turkey. And Turkey, the last 20 years, have done an immense investment in infrastructure. Let it be airports, let it be highways, now with speed train and everything. But most importantly, our culture, our DNA is hospitality. And Turkey is the biggest, I always say, the biggest open air museum in the world.
Oh.
Every meter you go in Turkey, you will find 5, 6 civilizations.
Oh, don't start, Jerry. I can feel Jerry starting to stir as you say this.
Well, Turkey is the cradle of many civilizations.
Oy.
And as Napoleon said, if there was one capital city in the world,
Oy.
that should be Istanbul, right?
You're living dangerously, sir. You're living dangerously.
Let me just do some marketing, please.
No,
Well, he went there.
But one thing I want to add is that
Yeah.
a little bit different from such important brands and leaders here. Obviously, our group, we don't compete on key price. We compete on per head spent. So our business is a little bit different, that we have to create experiences and lifestyle. And for this, you asked in the beginning, which parts of the world are interesting? USA for sure. Middle East, for sure. Turkey, amazingly open. And one thing I can tell you, Latin America is going to come up. Watch the next coming couple of years.
Latin America's been coming up as long as I can remember. It never sort of quite managed.
That's what people used to say about Turkey.
I'm going to pause a second because we've got this AI tool, right? And we're all about AI. So I asked AI beforehand, what is the solution to over-tourism? I asked the AI that they've got here, which is powered by Perplexity, what is the solution to over-tourism, which I know you're all concerned about? The question is how you manage it. So what's the answer, please?
Good morning, gentlemen. Right, here we go. 1. Let's push digital detoxing. 80% of tourists want Instagrammable experiences. Ban social media in iconic locations to reduce the 1.5 billion Airbnb guest arrivals, overwhelming destinations and hospitality worker shortfalls. Or 2. Let's radically accelerate virtual reality tourism to cut physical visitors by 50%. The VR tourism market is already set to grow to 27 billion by 2027.
You are delusional.
Richard, yeah.
Delusional.
Richard.
To ban Insta and... Yeah, go ahead, Chris, please.
No, so first of all, I disagree with all of that. But I think we're sitting in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I think, which is a perfect example of how we solve for over-tourism, which is it's a big world. And there are a lot of destinations around the world that have heretofore not really been discovered. And there are a lot right here in the kingdom. Think about the Red Sea and the investments that are going on around this extraordinary country. What are they going to do? They're going to allow us to distribute travelers around the world and not have so many people descending on the same old places that they have been.
Richard, can I just piggyback on a great comment that Sebastien made on domestic tourism? I'll do it quickly. So we set a goal for Vision 2030 for 100 million visits for the kingdom. And I'd like to acknowledge our great Minister of Tourism, Ahmed Al-Khatib, for his leadership in the country. We fulfilled that goal of 100 million visits by December of 2023, of which 73 million were Saudis rediscovering their own country, right? And then 27 million that will grow. So to Sebastian's point about internal tourism, for us, we were one of the only countries in the world that grew during COVID because of internal tourism.
All right.
Richard, I'm going to say something that may be even more controversial than totally disagreeing, as Chris said. I don't think there's an over-tourism problem. There's an over-concentration of tourism in a few places.
That is expressing the same thing in different language.
Wait a minute. I mean, I'll give you an example. This summer, I spent several weeks in this tiny village in central Italy, nobody's ever heard of. It has 15 permanent residents. 15 only. It used to have more. But these villages are getting depleted. People are leaving around the world, and they will leave. If everybody has to move to New York, to Riyadh, to Tokyo, to Paris, that's not sustainable. You want to talk about what's not sustainable? That's not sustainable. So what can we do about it? To answer your question earlier, we need to work with governments to distribute this travel differently.
Right, but every country I've covered, and I think you all know I've done this a while, every country is trying to distribute, particularly places like Thailand, which now want to distribute to new areas, build new resorts, to try and... Tony, how can the industry, short of the ridiculousness of the AI comment, short of banning or taxing or limiting or ticketing and all the things that we know will not work?
I think Chris and Ellie hit on the points, which is during the pandemic, when borders were closed, domestic travelers had a chance to revisit or perhaps visit for the first time destinations across their countries. It is incumbent on the industry in partnership with the public sector to help continue that momentum by not limiting the exposure to these amazing secondary and tertiary domestic destinations to the locals, but promote them in a more proactive, more deliberate way so that cross-border travelers are pursuing those destinations. Venice, Barcelona, those destinations cannot continue to take on more visitors, But to suggest that these amazing destinations like Italy and Spain only have those destinations to offer.
So how do we do that?
Public-private partnership, and I think what's happening here in the kingdom is a great illustration of that.
And we had a conclave yesterday, which was a very nice moment with His Excellency. We realize, we know, but we don't spend enough time on it. The new generation will not follow the path of the older generation, i.e. they might go to remote places way before they're going to go to Barcelona and Venice. Just understand what they want. They are extremely precautious on sustainability. They're going to be influencers. They're going to have access to AI in terms of actually choices. So it's going to be solving itself not by accident, but the name of the game is those between 20 and 34 years old. What do you do to them? Are you listening enough? Because they want something vastly different.
Just to add on to Sebastien, I think what's important, last year we touched upon, again, a very well-organized program in here with Future Investment Initiative, was the regenerative tourism. And these young people, they want to work in companies that emphasizes not only sustainability, but regenerative issues. We are not, as business people, to keep what we borrow from nature and the world the same, but we have to add to the nature, to the society, and the people that work with us. I call them my family. They want to work in that type of a company. And my customers, my guests, they want to go to a business, to a brand who cares for what they care in the world.
This is crucial. I'm going to take you first, Ellie, and then Chris.
Yeah.
This is crucial because the one thing I think there will be agreement on with this panel is that you are running an industry that is truly has power for upward mobility within society. Yes. You're probably the single largest industry that can lift people out of poverty, travel and tourism globally. Done right.
Let's talk about done right. I mean, on top of what Farid was saying, it's not just they want to work for organizations like this. What our industry does, it gives them an opportunity to do that work where they live, so they don't have to move. Right. So they can stay with their families, with their parents, with their friends, in their community, in their culture, so they don't have to relocate. It's fine for some people. I relocated. I went to the United States in 1981. It's worked out, but not everybody should have to do that. How do you bring jobs to these communities? Not just jobs, investment. The local franchisee that owns that hotel, the family that works there, the vendors that support the hotel. All this brings prosperity. We should not be always on our back foot on over-tourism. Fine, it's an issue. We need to work on the distribution. We should also be proud of what we do to bring prosperity to communities.
Absolutely.
Richard, I think people, having chaired for a number of years WTTC and spent a lot of time with leaders, including extraordinary leaders, Minister of Tourism here in Saudi Arabia, I think people in the world don't understand our industry to a large degree and what the opportunities are. I mean, many people in this audience would probably be surprised to hear me say that travel and tourism is 10% of global GDP. One of the biggest industries on earth. We're 1 in 10 jobs in the world. We're 1 in 5 new jobs, and we're one of the top 3 growth industries on earth. And to your point, we are an engine of opportunity locally that can turn into a global opportunity in the sense that millions of people, represented by the companies just on this stage, millions of individuals have started, like myself, in an engineering department plunging toilets and ended up building extraordinary careers and lives. It's not thousands. Just on this stage, millions of people have had opportunities to have a great future, build families, build lives. It's very much something that I think over time we've struggled with as an industry for people to understand just how much opportunity there is.
Can I develop that thought with you?
Sure.
Because you raised something that I've banged on about for years, which, and by the way, forgive me, Minister, I didn't see you sitting there, otherwise we would have acknowledged you and the contribution that you've made as WTTC and at UNWTO level to the industry. But the reality is, on a national level, the industry does not get the respect and/or power and influence that something affirming 10% of an economy or global economy should get. The truth is, you're taxed, you're regulated, you are, when the crunch happens, governments, that's tourism. How can you change that so that you actually punch your weight?
It's, you talk about all the European nations, there is no real minister of tourism as such. You talk about European Commission commissioners, there's no real commissioner for tourism. It's not that they don't give a damn. It's just, I guess, they believe it comes naturally. They don't spend for it, it's 10%. They don't realize exactly, and I hate to say it on stage, Chris is right. But it's on the neutral.
Write that down.
I'll make it.
I'm gonna mark that
It was
down.
11:45 when he said it, yes.
On the new job creation, it's, we are the only 2 or 3 industry at large who can respond to a lot of problems. Just 1 second, because it struck me last week. I'm part of something at the World Bank. The following number is extremely kind of actually scary. You're going to have, in the next 10 years, in low-income, middle-income countries, so it includes Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America, 1.2 billion people looking for a job between 15 years old and 24 years old. We have jobs today, maybe for a third of them, 400. We don't have any solution for 800 million of them, and those people would not have gone to university. We are probably one of the 2 or 3 actors who can resolve that 800 million job required. So we have a duty, except we need, Your Excellency, you said it, we are underserved. People don't listen to us.
The US is arguably doing a marginally, it doesn't have a tourism minister per se, which
No.
is a
Laughable. Which is laughable.
Right.
But you know, now
No ministry
Fred is taking over at Brand USA and those sort of things. It does, but it is extraordinary, isn't it? It's almost as if the business will come what may. Yeah?
Well, and I think one of the themes you hear all of us talk about is this notion of localization.
Yeah.
The kingdom recognizes it clearly. But you think about all the constituents that we serve. To the extent we can grow young members of our teams in market, so populating our hotels with young Saudis with an interest in travel and tourism. To Chris's point, these aren't jobs while they, quote, look for a real job. These are opportunities to build long-term, lifelong careers. So it serves the local population. It serves the government well because we are creating jobs. It serves our guests because our guests crave authenticity, and the best way to deliver that...
How can you get that message out?
School of life.
Yeah.
We are a school of life.
How can you get that message out?
Having done this for more years than I want to admit, we're doing a better job. So we are, you know, if I think about it, I've kidded for years. We're sort of, young people won't understand this comment. We've been the Rodney Dangerfield of industries. For those that don't remember, American comedian, and his running joke was, "I get no respect." But over the last 20 years, we've made progress working in public-private partnerships to help people understand the economic value of our industry.
There's one drawback. There's something, because we talked about it with the World Bank. We can be super efficient providing jobs if, and only if, they provide us with transportation, water, energy. We only exist because we need that machinery to be able to service.
Do you feel you
So
have
we're extremely depending on public sector.
Do you feel you have a seat at the table in that debate?
Of course not. We don't. We're asking for one. We're going to get one, I guess. We have enough expertise today, and we're pretty vocal, but we're getting there.
To be honest with you, this taxes, tariffs, and this and that is across the world is a reality. These people here, apart from being leaders, these people are passionate about what they do. They love the business. They are obsessed with their sectors. And we are a positive sector. People like to be with us, working and also visiting us. So the only thing that probably we can ask for the countries and the leaderships, just like Saudi is doing with NEOM Project or Red Sea Global, to open and create destinations for us. So we can bring our art, our passion to these destinations. I've seen this now happening in a great grand plan in Saudi Arabia, and I'm very proud to be very tiny part of it with our wellness. In Turkey, we are, our government did a concession, an amazing 200 years old, forgotten location in Istanbul. It's called Galata Port. Now it's filled with people. 70,000 people every weekend, every day visit this place. It's a destination, it's a new neighborhood. And one thing we did about being crowded tourism, we all know that the cruise line business is getting a lot of reaction from the local public. So what we did as the concession owners of Galata Port, we took the traffic of the cruise line under the sea. So we should not only wait from the governments to create options, to open the field for us, but the real creativity and solutions lie with us.
Hey.
Look, Richard, it's true, but also wrong, that in many countries, not all, there is a belief that tourism will come what may, and I don't have to do anything for it. Year over year, you may be close to right. Over the long term, you're wrong. You lose share. Look at the US. And Chris, Tony, and I sit on the US Travel Association board and try to lobby for travel there. If you go since pandemic, the US is double-digit above in outbound travel to Europe. It's double-digit below in inbound travel from that aid. It's losing share. Countries that invest in their infrastructure, invest in the marketing, invest in the tourism, are taking share. Kingdom's one, and other countries, if you move east, and look, demographics, talked about demographics, just mean that travel is moving east. Europe, North America will always be huge for us, but the percentage growth is shifting east to the Middle East and over in that direction. But you need to be strategic. You can delude yourself year over year that you can hold your share by doing nothing. It's just not really happening over the long term. And, you know, here's one anecdote, and I'll say it here, maybe 1 week before election. The three of us who sit on the US Travel Association, this is the first time that I think this group of travel CEOs, including the airlines, has not had an audience with the White House. Every single White House before, this group would have an audience with the White House. This is the first time. So they may be taking it for granted. I think there are long-term consequences.
I've only got 3 minutes left, and you opened a Pandora's box. I'm going to finish with this, because you sell dreams, you sell excitement. I'm going to ask AI, God help me after the last answer we got, who knows what we'll end up with. AI, where is the question I phrased is, where is the one place in the world you want to go and visit? And you cannot cop it out by saying that's up to individual choice. You have to say a destination. Where is it?
Oh. It's Paris.
Richard, that's such a difficult question.
Useless.
Let me say the Riyadh structure, known as the Eye of the Sahara in Mauritania. It spans 45 kilometers. It is visible from space and reveals millions of years of geological history.
Cop out.
Sounds good, right?
Cop out. That's like when people say to me, what's the one place my favorite place in the world to visit?
Diriyah.
Oh, God, you're good, Jerry. You're really good. I always say Sydney. Why? Because no one can argue against it. It's far enough away. You've either been there or you haven't. The time zone is dreadful. You get a safe answer. So I'm going to ask each of you, whether you've been there before and you want to visit it again, the one place in the world, sir, start with you, Farik, that you would like to visit. And it can't be your own country.
When I was child, it was Disneyland. But now it's Cappadocia, in the middle part of Turkey. It's amazing culture, air, weather, and my wife loves it. So that's very important, you see.
Cappadocia. I presume most of you have been at some point to Cappadocia and been up in a hot air balloon. Sebastian, the one place in the world that you either have or you haven't, or you'd like to go next. And I'm sure one of these gentlemen will put you up tonight.
It's in between a wish and a dream. Iran. I think Iran is, and I've been there 3 times, is one of the top 3 most extraordinary country on this planet for a lot of good reasons. But certainly the warmth of the Iranis.
Ellie.
You know, it's a bit embarrassing. I grew up in Italy, then moved to the US, but I've never been to Sicily.
What?
There's history that goes back, and I travel there, but its history goes back to, millennia, and it's in the center of the Mediterranean, close to Africa. It has cultures from around the world, and I'd love to go there.
I'll take you after this.
Thank you for giving me the plug. My next Quest World of Wonder is from Sicily, where we were staying. All right, Chris, go on.
Well, I have to say Saudi Arabia, because I'm sitting in Saudi Arabia. That's a caveat, but I've been to one of my favorite places before, and I'm dying to go back, and in fact, I'm going to be there tonight, and that's the Maldives.
Beautiful place.
Galapagos Islands.
Have you been?
No.
Yeah.
But many friends have visited. Very anxious to see it. Extraordinary destination.
Are you going to go?
Yes.
Go on, you get the last word. And, all right, you cannot choose anywhere in the kingdom.
Okay, let me think this through.
We haven't got all day.
Diriyah.
He has it in his blood. It's just, Jerry.
I give up.
I give up. Let's all go
You'll never knock me off my brand.
You got to admire him. Jerry, the panel, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.